the Memoirs of a Fitness Trainer podcast. Today, we are talking about CrossFit, that unholy sport that ruins athletes' careers and really makes weekend warriors shine. You can tell I have a background in bodybuilding because I don't really like CrossFit that much. But we're going to talk about the topic today. We're going to go down the rabbit hole a little bit. But to kick us off, we're going to go ahead and take Tyler and I's hot takes on it and what our opinions are, which, Tyler, my man, tell us a little bit about what you think of CrossFit.
Oh, dude, CrossFit is fucking the shit. Let's go. Hoorah. Hoorah.
Oh,
I feel like the Spartans, like when I'm talking about it, like it's just like the 300. Like when you find like your group of people and it's like your group that you're solid, like, hey, we're in here, we're here to suffer, like battle wounds, injuries, because you know it's gonna happen. You're gonna get hurt. Uh, you're just like it's like being on a football team. It's like you got to gather your brothers together and just like grab linked arms, and just go hoorah! Like I'm in this. I'm in this to win it. If that's not your general mentality, maybe don't do it. Um,
I have a thing. I don't know. Maybe it's just the athletic background, but I have a real hard time with the act of getting better at a sport causing you to be hurt. I have a real tough time with like, oh, my sport hurts me as I practice it. Oh, that's not really smart.
well, you got to practice how you play. So like I dislocated my shoulder. And I got my worst injury in football my junior year, the first hitting day of the season. Called out our middle linebacker, and I grabbed the ball and I'm like, I'm gonna hit this dude. And I leaned my shoulder and popped it out. I was out the rest of the season, and that was just in practice. So that sucked. But what did I do? I came back the next season and bulked up and I strapped my shoulder. And of course I dislocated it, but I just didn't say anything this time. So that way the coach didn't have to take me out for 4 weeks. I learned my lesson.
To lie to your coach?
Of course.
Oh, okay.
It's
Well,
a wink. Like coach knows you don't say it. Like when you have a concussion, you don't say the C word.
you you can tell I was never really a good athlete. I was really good at training for these things, but like I when I hear this shit, I'm like, that's dumb. Well, why do
Yeah.
something dumb?
Hey, Jefferson just got his bells rung. Yeah. He doing all right? Says he's seeing colors. Yeah, we all see colors. He'll be fine. Bench him.
Let me know when Jefferson's hearing colors, then I'll be concerned.
Yeah,
Robertson
we all
Turner,
see
he'll be
colors.
fine.
That's new. I'm just kidding. Take concussion seriously, especially for your athletes.
Very, very fucking seriously. I
Yeah.
unless you're going for the championship, I'm all for it. Like he's had bones put back in, I've had bones put back in, or joints. But
Joints.
it's there is a time and a place for the extreme nature of athletics to be prevalent. For us to
Yeah.
kind of just, hey, you're gonna put some super glue in that cut, and that's what it is. That
Oh yeah.
shouldn't
You're not.
be Tuesday when you're doing cardio.
Yeah. Sorry. So real hot take over CrossFit. I don't go trail. I just get freaking hyped up. So I talk about it. So all right. So CrossFit was initially when I was first like introduced to it. I was I was young. I was a junior year in high school, so that was like 2010. So it was like CrossFit kind of era was starting to pop up 2006, 2007-ish, I remember. Still was starting to get like really popular around the time I was in my junior senior year. And so for my baseball team my senior year as training, we did CrossFit during the winter break. And I remember we all signed up and they did like a 6 week group fitness with us. And that was my first introduction. And we did like, barbell movements, things that are like powerlifting that we didn't actually do other than like inside our weight training room for football, but that was all just like strict deadlift and all these motions. Um, and then I didn't really go back to it until like I was visiting my brother. My brother got super into it. Did it for like 3 years when he lived in Tahoe, found a great coach. I would go with him, but I would go and I'd do these workouts and they'd be like, 25 minutes long. And I'm like, um, can I like hang out and do the rest of my stuff? Because I still got to do arms and I got to do back.
I do the
So
curls for the girls. I gotcha.
yeah, like I enjoyed the workouts, but I also, the way that people stay in shape is a little bit different than what the workouts can always, supply. So for the needs of what I was looking to get out of it, like didn't always match like what was applied in the limited amount of time. That's just end all what it end up being. Unless you want to go like 2 days or stay there for 3 hours. And then recently, actually, this last year, I did go in 2023. I went and joined a CrossFit gym down here locally while I was kind of getting back into the fitness realm. And that was to get myself around a coach and get back familiar with the movements of like rowing, pulling, and like doing all like kettlebells and learning the cueing aspect as somebody who's coming back into a coaching realm. And I'm so happy I did it because I went and I pretty much interviewed the coach in the first week. Was like really asking questions. What was his background? He had a huge history, great report. Was a great coach. I loved learning from him. And so that was it was a good experience. I was also doing double days where, I'd go there in the mornings and then after I got home from work, I would
Yeah.
go work out so I can get my bodybuilding and get my frame for sure. So I support the realm. My biggest thing in this whole industry with the CrossFit is it's matters on the coach. If you
Yep.
have a good coach, it can be good. If your coach sucks, your CrossFit will suck.
I firmly believe that. I do, I will kind of admit now or concede that the vast majority of the problems in the CrossFit realm are just from shitty coaches. And it's
Yeah.
it's it's like personal trainers. A bad personal trainer is a dime a dozen. And finding that rare breed of person that actually really cares about what they're doing to learn about it and to spend time continually kind of shaping their craft it is a rarity. And so like, CrossFit's not inherently bad, but still,
Yeah.
fuck all that.
Yeah. So my hot take on it is I support the idea, right? So you're obviously against it. So what are your biggest things that you're against?
The biggest thing I'm against with CrossFit is the pairing of incredibly heavy-based movements that are high skill with high repetition, high endurance movements like burpees, you know. So someone doing a power clean and they're in an environment where there's 20 people around them, they're yelling, there's music, there's a lot happening to shift your focus and drag you elsewhere. And then on top of that, you're about to go ahead and go in to do burpees for time. And then you're going to go after that. And all right, now we're going to go run around the block. Well, we're not on a running phase. It's just coach felt like having you run today. And then you're back in, and then great. Now go back to that barbell, and I'm going to go have you do an AMRAP with like 80% of your one rep max. And you're like, wait, what? This is just, this is the perfect recipe for someone getting hurt.
Right.
Or, oh, I know we've never trained with a weight vest before, but today we are, and we're going to go ahead and see how many push-ups you can do and how many box jumps. And you're like, whoa, wait, what? Where's the priming? Where did we build the skill sets for this person to go ahead and safely execute the movement and then safely replicate the movement to then scale it? So like the lack of consistency and the lack of protocol because of the spontaneity that comes with CrossFit of the WODs, the workout of the days. I really disagree with that mindset. Just because of the randomness and the lack of control applied. That's probably my biggest beef with it.
You know, you really think the boys, when they're storming the beaches in Normandy, had their freaking bands and their freaking rollers on their legs? Heck no, they ran those beaches.
You think the boys in Normandy were working out?
Anyways, yeah, that is a failure. I would say, like, I mean, even in this last year when I was doing the CrossFit thing, we have like 10, 15 minutes, like less than that sometimes to warm up. And then you're getting introduced to the workout. So, a coach would do his best, like, hey, here's get on the roller, get on the thing, get on the bike, get moving. But it's up to you as the athlete most of the time to know what it takes for you to get warmed up. And so if the coach is like, not telling you like, hey, class starts here, but you need to do this, this before we start our warm up, and is not like coaching you to that level, and you're just showing up like at the time, like, hey, workouts at 5:15, you're showing up at 5:14, tossing yourself in the cover, and you're on the mat by 5:15. It's like, okay, no, no, no. My coaching was happening at 5:30. I was showing up at 5:15. I'd be in the parking lot. I'd be waiting for them to get the door open. I'd go in, immediately get on the bike, start foam rolling, and have my method going to get warm. So I'm prepared for that.
Oh yeah. And I get that yes, the onus is on the athlete. It always is, right? I
Yeah,
mean, no amount of coaching or no coach is good enough to make up for the lack of ownership of an athlete. It's just not possible. But at the same time, it's all right. The average person involved in group fitness, which CrossFit is group fitness, is someone that typically is they're coming at the end of their day. They just got off work. They just sat in traffic, and they're usually running into those kind of sessions or those classes a little right at the razor's edge, typically.
yeah,
And they are rather intermittent with their attendance. Like, how often is it common to be in a CrossFit class and, oh, I wonder where Sally's at? Or I wonder, I haven't seen John in a week or two. And that type of flow where people are there, then they're not, then they're going to a different
yeah,
class where we have a different instructor who designed a completely different workout program. He's on endurance.
right.
You guys are on power. You've not done power at all, but now you're showing up for power. And it's like, oh,
Yeah,
okay. Again, it seems like such a mixed bag where there's so many things that could so easily go wrong and are almost set up in a way where, yeah, in
yeah,
a perfect world, they're not going to go wrong, but that's not this world.
yeah, yeah. I can see that. Um, yeah, that does happen. There are coaches that do run those types of programs. I mean, a lot of the CrossFit hardcore nation at this point, it used to be like that, where there's a lot of like new people coming onto it, but then like injury reports started coming out, and like in the
Oh
last
yeah.
20 years, in the last like 10 years, like since like probably like 2015, people started hearing about it. Like 2015, 16 was like peak of it, feel.
Oh
Like
yeah.
you had Matt Frazier competing in the games. It was like, everybody was hooked on the idea. And then like injury reports started coming out like 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. And people started really seeing like, oh, there's a lot of people getting injured in this sport. You can go
You
back to
are
Orange
more
Theory.
likely, you're more likely to get hurt doing CrossFit than you are fighting. That is comical to me.
That's where did you hear that?
That's a
That's
legitimate
intense.
injury statistic. I'll see if I can
Wow.
find it. I want to say it's on an independent report with Muscle and Strength, but
Yeah.
it's essentially you're more likely to get hurt in the
Yeah.
act of pursuing competitive CrossFit than you are with actually pursuing competitive fighting. Because again,
Yeah.
competitive fighting, you're understanding that injury is very apparent. It's like, hey, no,
Yeah.
that's it's gonna happen, so let's go ahead and really try to fight it. And we're circling the same
Yeah.
topic here at this
Well, I think
point.
people like to forget the idea like the whole CrossFit was just designed by guys who were like on a farm pretty much. I mean, like,
Oh yeah,
how much badass shit can we do? And let's throw it all together and let's make these workouts. And they're writing these workouts like, man, this would suck. Nobody went like, why don't we do the run before we do the powerlifting? Because if we're doing the powerlifting, the phase of the muscle. No one was thinking
no,
that like, dude, it would suck if we had to go flip this tire 20 times and then go run around with a weight carried over our shoulders like this.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
dude, that
but
would suck. Let's do it.
that's of that same train of mindset that all movement equals all movement. So long as you're active, it's going to get you in shape. It's like, well, no, you could be incredibly active and be horribly out of shape.
Yeah.
That's a very big part of it. Or just because you're lifting heavy weights doesn't mean you're getting stronger. Shit, you could just be taking time bomb waiting to blow your back out. That's not strength. That's just not paying attention to a problem. But
But
I do agree with
there,
you. It was designed to be something more of like basic training, just a level of suck. You go through this
yeah.
suck to get out on the other side a stronger and more disciplined individual, which there's something for that. I will again kind of concede that there is something to be said with building discipline by doing really hard things and doing them just because they're hard. Like I'm
Yeah.
all there for it. It's
Oh, 100%.
probably just more my mindset is very let's control this as much as possible to guarantee the outcome as much as possible. Because I know the outcome's so hard to achieve in fitness. So if it's weight loss or
Yeah.
it's gaining muscle, it's that person statistically is going to fail the task that they're doing. Like they have, I think it's like a, God, it's like, I think it's what for weight loss, the statistic is the majority of people will never lose more than 10 pounds. And of those that lose more than 10 pounds, 97, 98, or high 90s percentile of those individuals will regain almost every single pound within 2 years. And at 3 years,
Yeah.
will have put on an additional 10 pounds. It's like, okay, well, we're playing a rigged game. Like
Yeah.
you're almost a certainty to lose. Well, fuck, I better control for as much as I can to guarantee that outcome. So that's like where my mindset goes with all of these things is I just know that left to this person's own devices and how everyone else is doing things, this is almost a certainty they're going to fail. So let's go ahead and try to get that out of the way. But that's just
Yeah.
more my mindset, I guess.
If you're thinking longevity stance, yeah, nobody. I mean, it hasn't even been around long enough. I mean, we're talking about 20 something years,
Mhm.
but nobody is doing CrossFit from 15 years old
Mm-mm.
until they're 90.
No.
At some point in their 40s or 50s. I was saying, like, dude, like you don't do fitness for the CrossFit industry where you're going to do it for a lifetime. You do it because you either have a goal, you have an outcome, or you have something to prove for yourself. Where it's like, hey, I want to go do this stuff because I want to really challenge myself. It is to fatigue. It is. I'm not. I'm in a good state of mind. You're trying to do it for the purposes of like, you know, push heavy weights. You are a go-getter. You're a fighter. Like you said, you compared it to the idea of being in the fight industry as far as the injury report. Why do you think they compared it to something so similar? Like you are actually going out there and you're brawling against weights. You're doing movements that are dangerous and that if they're not done correctly, you could end up with severe injuries, lifetime injuries,
Oh, yeah.
dislocated shoulders, back injuries, hips. Don't even get me started about knees if you're not wearing sleeves. Um, but the risk reward depends on the type of person you are. If your ideal is to be in a community where everybody is like, surrounded, yes, there's yelling, yes, there's going everything else, but when I got my headphones on and I'm playing Slipknot and I'm doing like bench press, like I am calm in the moment, just hearing I don't even hear the music. So it's like when somebody's in that environment and they're used to that yelling, screaming, and everybody being around them, it doesn't matter if they're doing cleans and burpees over top. They're in the flow. That's
Oh,
their zone.
I get it. But I do, I mean, what? Sometimes people will yell, crash in weights and things like that. And that's not so much the sound element of things, it's the randomness with movement that's kind of happening around you and the amounts of change that's kind of occurring with it.
Mm,
But I will, again,
I get that.
there's going to be some portions of this that, as much as I do dislike it, the majority of the reason why I dislike it is just because of how I approach training, which again is that like let's guarantee the end the outcome as best we can. So like I know I'm kind of walking into this with that.
Oh
But
yeah.
the other side of it, CrossFit used to just be called cross training. Like
Yeah.
that's what that was. And
Simple enough.
I really liked cross training because we
Yeah.
didn't do workout of the days, WODs.
Yeah.
You kind of had an idea of how things were going. It was, I'm in an endurance phase. We're training these two movements today, and then we have these other things that we know it's going to be a rotation. We know there's going to be a overhead press. We know that there's going to be a cardio movement. What
Yeah.
he's going to do for that overhead press and that cardio movement and that rotation, find out on Tuesday when we get there. But there used to be a very dictated plan, taking more traditional training methods and putting more that cross twist on it. And it just feels to me when CrossFit came out, it very directly went, no, we're just going to make this hard for the sake of making it hard, which again, like
Yeah.
I'm all for. Build discipline, build a community,
Yeah.
enjoy your workouts, prove to yourself that you can do something. I'm there for it.
Yeah.
But you have to be walking into that environment going, all right, this isn't going to be a lifetime thing, but people are doing it to try to make it a lifetime thing. They're,
Yeah. They just don't do it at RX. Like RX is like the prescribed weight tone. People will drop it down, like, and it will get modified to a very, very drop down level. But that really depends on the coach. If the coach is looking at somebody like, hey, we're going to be doing snatches today, um, you're going to be doing deadlifts in a very controlled stance.
Mhm.
And you're not going to be doing it that many reps. I'm going to have you go for 3 while everybody else is going to do 9 snatches overhead. Like it's up to the coach to really like dumb something down for somebody. Or like, hey, you're not going to be doing that. You dislocated your shoulder last year. We're still recovering off of that. You're doing band works. You're going to do bicep curls with the bar. Like find something else, find a different movement. So if there's ways to kind of like change that, you're not going to be, looked at as somebody who's doing the right workout, but still you're involved in the community. So people do kind of go off that RX prescribed workout. But again, that comes to the coach and the experience of that coach to recognize somebody's potential and injury, and then also to stop somebody. When I was in Tahoe and I was in great shape, I went in with my brother to go do some CrossFit, and on the board was like, it was like a 21, 21, 19, 15. It was like a countdown for like, you do these movements back to back. And it was like toes to bar. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that. And I was swinging my legs, did the toes to bar. And the coach came over and was like, whoa, whoa, hey, look, man, I know you're in great shape, but if you do that volume of toes to bar, like how often do you do it? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't done toes to bar. I do crunches or stuff. And he goes, yeah, you're gonna do knees to chest. Trust me. Like, just see how you feel when you come back. We can like practice toes to bar together or something. But today I got a huge class and you haven't done those, so don't do those.
Mhm.
Knees to chest. And he stopped me. I was like,
Good coach. That's a good coach. Yeah.
right? And like later that season, there's also one that was like doing deadlifts at 295 or 315 was RX. And I did one and I was like, oh, I was kind of feeling tight. And he goes, oh, that sucked. Yeah, drop down. You're going 225. I'm like, I pulled it. He goes, yeah, but we're gonna have to pull that another 10 times in the movement. Drop the weight. Like, oh fuck. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, it feels like we're just getting back to it comes down to the onus of responsibility to make sure things are going right is on the athlete.
Mhm.
But the experience someone's going to have with CrossFit is going to come down to the coach.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know
I
what
would
my
I would
my
agree with that.
you know what the coolest thing I think CrossFit did, and you can kind of trace this. I bet there's probably results from it. Um, for women, as far as like bringing Olympic lifting, powerlifting, and all these aspects, these things that weren't really in the realm. What did you start seeing as a trend in 2006, 2008? CrossFit Games started coming in, and there's like women and men competing and doing these like massive lifting sports. And there's always been bodybuilders, or there's always been girls that have been in shape or have been fitness models, but it was always on the track of like being like the Barbie model, kind of being like, okay, always toned. There was bodybuilding, there was definitely getting strong. But then there's like all of a sudden there's like, man, this girl fucking like Sarah Silverman's daughter, and like these really burly like athletes were just coming out, and then it just created like a whole new section for women. Like, yeah, we're good to do these lifting. We can do what men do. Like, let's do this. I thought that
I
was pretty
would
cool.
argue that it probably had more of an effect towards the other direction. I think those athletes being so forefront and so force-centered in the argument or the conversation for fitness, right, is it allowed certain individuals to go like Eric's wife, we'll say a little bit more masculine, more muscular,
Right.
right? It made that more acceptable and more of something like where people were kind of put more face to face with it. So it became something that women could go after and not necessarily be completely ostracized for, like it probably
Right.
was in the past.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say the best thing that has ever happened for women's weightlifting is kind of funny as this is, was just Instagram. It was seeing
Yeah.
women in great shape
Yeah.
doing heavy things and
Mm,
going, oh, she's lifting a lot of weight and she still looks feminine. I can lift a lot of weight and still look feminine then.
yeah.
And because I don't know about you, maybe this is just again because I do a lot of weight loss and physique work. Like that's more of my niche with what I train.
Right.
I've probably had more people come into reference saying, "Hey, I don't want to look like that." I don't want to lift heavy because I don't want to look like these CrossFit girls. Like
Right.
significantly more people
And
have
that's how
come
they
in and
describe
gone,
it though. They
fuck
describe it
that.
like the CrossFit girl. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying though. It's like that started being like the thing, like, oh, you this girl looks like she does CrossFit because there's just started being like, filled out. And I gotta tell you, if I was like with a girl and she was freaking like that, I know for number one, that girl's workouts and her meal planning program is fucking on point. She's
Oh
weighing it
yeah.
out. Oh yeah.
Dude,
I see that and I'm
100%.
like, that is somebody I want to be with because I want to be a part of that program. It has nothing, the relationship will work out for whatever it's worth. I want to be a part of what she's doing because I guarantee she's waking up at 5 a.m. She's getting on her runs. She's got her meal preps. I know what it takes to get to like because the female athlete, like to get that physique, so much different than men. Men's testosterone, their way of building, the ability of just like changing, like manipulating the diet and just getting testosterone levels to just flatten out and just like, okay, you're hitting peak performance. Okay, you're just swiveling up. Then you have women where it's like, hey, menstrual, hey, menstrual,
Mhm.
hey, menstrual. Like and constant flow and the ability to adapt to the weight change, like it is so much different than men where it's like, oh yeah, hey, weights. Oh, more weights.
Um, yeah, I'm gonna challenge you a little bit on that one, man. Um, so like in physique sport, I'm not even gonna like talk about performance training because we can kind of go down
Okay.
the rabbit hole with that and those types of outcomes. But I know in physique sport, when we start talking about putting on pounds per mass of muscle,
Right.
that the rate of progression isn't that much different. It's just scaled down. Like you typically see from things like a woman going through like her period. Well, we don't see the body lose its ability to put muscle mass on during that time, right? We see outcomes from training go down
Yeah.
significantly because they feel like shit.
Well, blood volume would be increased, so actually oxygen delivery could be a little easier. It just, how do you get muscular? Well, you're not stopping that growth pattern, you're still creating it.
Yeah, there's nothing happening in the body that's inherently stopping protein turnover. And like that's really the biggest metric you have to look at when we're talking about the body's ability to put on muscle masses. Are you still converting protein? Yes, great. We're still doing great.
Hmm.
So I normally what I've seen in the literature, which there's not like a lot on it because it's a really sensitive topic and you can never get funding for something like this. But we've seen it where it's more the training outcomes people go into, and it's the same thing where training outcomes from age. So as you age, your rate of adaptation and recovery goes down.
Yeah.
Well, how much of that is from age and pro hormones starting to go down and the elasticity of your joints becoming more brittle? How much of it's from that? And then how much of that kind of loss in performance comes from that person getting in that mindset of I'm aging, so I can't
Hmm.
do these things. And to kind of put it back in that same flavor of what we've been talking about, how much of those drops in performance outcomes from female athletes is from some inherent thing with their menstrual cycle, or is it just from them not feeling good, being bloated, and they can't eat as much, and then they want to eat a lot, and then they have
Yeah.
cramping, and it's, I mean, good God, it sounds fucking miserable.
So on the non-competitive level though, just like the general gym goes, like the
Mhm.
general gym athlete, you see a guy who's like slim, shredded, toned, he's in shape. Great. Then you see that same muscle build, like same kind of stature. Not super slim, but I mean like shoulders, muscle build, arms, triceps on a girl, right? Which one's more impressive? The girl.
Yeah,
To me, obviously, right?
yeah,
I look at that and I look like, man, they have the same shoulder frame. That girl, she must have a great program. The dude, I don't know. Maybe he lifts every now and again. Maybe that's just how he's been like that. He's just that kind of frame. That's what I'm saying. Is like it's just not natural. A girl doesn't go to the gym just twice a week, it's regularly, and it's just like, oh, I'm gonna maintain and keep that strong physique stature. Like, or it's just like I'll see guys who show up. oh man, did you work out? Oh, I didn't work out last week. And they're just like, you can still see that they have like big, strong arms. It could be based on occupation or what they're doing, just more in the general aspect. If I see somebody who's ripped, shredded, not on a competitive level where they're like, abs are completely all the way
Not the
down, you see
extreme.
every
Yeah.
rib. They're not taking pictures in the mirrors and they have like an Instagram with 24,000 followers. No, just the average gym guy, the average gym girl.
Okay. Well, is it that's a good way to put this. So, yes, I will agree that you're not going to see a female athlete that has a high muscle tone and doesn't train. Like that's just not how life works. And I would argue to say the male athlete that you see like that is less about them having extreme high amounts of muscle tone and more just to the fact that they're lean. Where
Yeah.
it's like, all right, that guy looks shredded. Yeah, but he's like 5'8" and is like 127 pounds. Like, all right, yeah, he's shredded, but there's not a whole lot else to him.
Yeah.
So
Like,
there's that side of it, and then it's this is probably going to more affirm your point. I think is you don't see that type of stark fall off from cardio adaptation. I find for female athletes to male athletes
mm,
as well. Like
yeah.
if you take a male athlete, and this is subjective. I have no data to pull this from. This is what I've observed throughout my, you know, fucking 25 years of running around the gym.
Right.
If you take a male athlete out and you take them out of their sport for say 2 months, their cardio drops off immensely. I've not
Yeah.
seen as much of that in the female athlete as far as returning to cardiovascular sport. So I wonder how much of a carryover is there, or maybe I'm just putting my own lens on it. I want to see something, so I'm seeing it. That
Right.
sort of thing. I don't know.
Maybe it's because men are lazier in the morning sometimes.
I just
I know girls,
I
I know girls that used to wake up at like 3:30 in the morning in high school because they had to get their hair ready by 6. And it's just like, what do you mean? Like you wake up that early? Yeah, I have to get my makeup, get my hair done, I gotta do this, I gotta get the curler. And it's like, you did all that like this morning? I do that every day. What is wrong with you? Like I rolled out of bed, blew the snot out of my nose, rubbed my eyes, and took a shower, like got some clothes on. Like I will never be able to compete with what women have to go through every day for like the idea of putting on makeup and doing all that business.
I think I rebel against the idea that inherently one gender has a harder job or a harder existence than the other. I think we all kind of have a pretty hard go about it, and especially when we start talking about again performance outcomes because that's really what we care about. And this is, performance
Gender
outcomes for
wars.
what was that?
Gender
Gender.
wars. You stop that
Dude,
right now.
I just
Let's
don't
get
like
canceled.
it. Well, I know when you tell someone they're at a disadvantage,
Yeah,
their performance outcomes go down.
100%.
Like if you
It's
tell
like,
someone, hey, it's gonna be harder for you, they're not
yeah.
gonna work harder, they're gonna work less.
Well, it's just
It's
on
part of why
like the opposite
participation
end.
awards don't work. It's
Exactly like the opposite end. When you have somebody in a classroom and say like, "Hey, you're in charge," like they immediately gain leadership qualities.
yep.
Yeah, so, yeah, I get those. Anyways, CrossFit. How about that?
Yeah, that was
You
fun.
see what this has done? CrossFit has led to gender wars. Here we go.
That was fun though. That was a good little rabbit hole we went down, man.
Oh
I enjoyed
yeah, like I
that.
said, we can keep going through stuff like that. We have to bring some like actual data points on. It'd be really fun. Like go like, hey, let's do like a data point sheet. Let's grab you grab. We'll have a topic where
Yep.
you have to be like you're pros, I'm against, and we'll be like, hey, here's the topic. Here's the actual research versus what you're saying, and be like
Oh,
try to prove each other wrong on something. That'd be
we could
fun.
red team this. Try to take a point and either
I don't
prove
know what
it
that
or
is.
disprove it. It's if you want to like really get if you're have a business, you're creating a program or you're making a decision, you create a red team.
Yeah,
Essentially, they're against it to make sure that it is actually a good idea. So their entire job is to not be for it, even though the entire company or the organization is all for that. You essentially
Right.
take 4 or 5 of your guys and go, hey, you're going to try to disprove this. Make sure we're right. Your job is to win. I think it'd be
Huh.
cool.
That'd be fun. We got this. Next round. All
Love
right.
it.
Closing points on the CrossFit.
Well, one thing I want to dive in a little bit on is like we got
Oh
kind of
yeah.
our take of this, which is I'm still not a
Yeah.
fan, even though I understand some of the reason why I'm not a fan is I'm a fucking hypocrite.
Yeah.
And I just don't like it because bodybuilding and I don't like sports that hurt people,
Yeah.
um, that aren't
Not
meant
all
to
of
hurt
us can
people.
have the not all of us can have a war mentality, just like want to battle it out. Pussy.
I treat training like it's a fucking war. It is the most cold, emotionless task for me. It's like, oh, I'm in a lot of pain right now. That's cool. All right. But yes, I just paused on me again. All right,
I
sorry
literally
about
do it.
that.
I own internet. Literally do this. I did this for a living.
He did my internet and it works great, so.
Literally. Yeah, I forgot about that.
But anyway, yes, CrossFit's a thing. Um, what I want to kind of get into before we hit our kind of closing points, though, is what does an average person feel about CrossFit walking into it? So I know how we feel,
Mm.
all of that, but I want to kind of think what's the idea of CrossFit, not how we observe it, but
No, I get it.
how people have their initial thoughts of CrossFit or how they interpret the idea.
Yeah. Well, what has happened now is there's been a brainwashing because I see it when I get asked questions, when I see like a new person come to me, like, oh, like, do you have any weightlifting experience? They'll tell me like, oh, I used to do CrossFit. Like, like I'm sure you probably think it's pretty bad. And they like they have this formulated opinion that I think it's bad because they've been told it's bad and they think it's bad because they got injured. Right. So most people, I would say, think CrossFit is something to steer away from because of the injury. Right.
Mhm.
And it's just not something for them. It's something that's like, people from a garage go do because they want to go fight demons in their heads. Okay, I agree with that.
Oddly specific.
So
Okay, well, we'll circle back.
oh yeah, yeah. Or you definitely have to drive a Tacoma. Like if you don't drive a Tacoma, you can't be.
You need to drive to Tacoma, and you need to be on your fourth kill cliff of the day to
Yeah,
show up to a CrossFit box. I got you.
and you definitely have a freaking dog named Rex. I wouldn't trust a gym that didn't have a CrossFit dog. Like if it didn't have a dog that was like showing up, that was there every day, I'm not trusting that gym.
I wouldn't trust a CrossFit instructor that didn't listen to Joe Rogan daily. How fucking accurate is that?
Oh my God. Or always had a PVC pipe like in their hand when they were talking.
Eh,
Like,
I was teaching alpha. That was 100% me. I always goddamn PVC pipe. It was like part of my uniform, and I rarely ever used it.
you're just like standing there explaining things today. No, you said where
Using
you,
the lightsaber.
yeah, 100%. Yeah,
So dumb.
yeah, yeah. There are certain qualities you have to exhibit. But yes, so a general person's opinion that you'll see off the street is like, oh man, CrossFit is intense. You're doing Olympic lifting, you're touching a barbell, like that is definitely power movements. It's something you have to learn and it's something you don't drop into and it can be scary. That's the general gist.
Okay, I would agree with that, and that's probably more of a modern take on it, and I do like that. My experience has kind of been pretty similar, but it's how are people looking at it by the time they get to us? Is kind of my question. Is it this is
They have
the
negative
general
feelings.
opinion? What was that?
They have negative feelings.
Yeah, but do they have inherent negative feelings walking into CrossFit? Or do they have inherent negative feelings because they had a bad experience with CrossFit and we're only seeing them because those are the people that are coming to us? Does that make sense?
Objection. Leading question. Objection. Leading the witness. You're wanting me to say it's because they're getting injured and they're leaving the CrossFit and coming to us because they got injured.
That's not where I was going with that. That was a purely thought experiment, but I like where your head's
I
at.
leading the witness. Objection, sir, Your Honor.
Well, in my defense, there may or may not be 4 or 5 books of motivational interviewing on my shelf behind me. So,
Oh yeah, I'd be terrible. I'd
um,
be terrible in an interview.
but it's what is it? I do think by the time people get to us, their opinion of CrossFit's already jaded. That's kind of what I'm trying to get with it.
Yeah,
It's they've already had their opinion formulated in a negative way, and that's why they're with us and not still at CrossFit.
right.
I think people view CrossFit as a fun alternative, which it is. CrossFit's a lot of fun. Um, where it can equal out every training mentality that you want or any outcome that you're searching for, which is still for most people weight loss. And again, it just kind of comes back down to my realm. And again, why I have a relative disdain for it is that idea that CrossFit's particularly efficient at weight loss and sustainability of that or longevity,
Right.
even. I mean, it's how many people stick with CrossFit for more than a few years?
Not a lot of people. I mean,
No.
the gym I was just at, these guys have been doing it since like 2009.
Oh,
Um,
hell yeah.
like they've been in the field. The people who stayed with it, I have not met a single person who's been like, yeah, I've been doing CrossFit since 2009.
No.
I've had no injuries. It's been steady and consistent. I've seen growth and lost weight, and I've been perfect. Best journey ever. No, it's usually like, oh man, it was back in like 2013 when I was going for this movement, and then I dislocated my shoulder, so I was out for a little bit, and then I came back, but then I started having a knee problem, and then now I had a meniscus tear, so I had surgery, so I
Yep.
came back and I had my LCL injured when I was trying to hop over a bar, and then I was doing a rope climb, and like there's always 100 stories where it's like then there's
Oh
like the
yeah.
bodybuilder where it's like, hey, how's your lifting been? Oh, the last 3 months I've been in a strength training series, been having trouble sometimes with eating enough.
Yeah.
Oh, oh, you didn't like break your elbow or like your wrists are fine. Yeah, I use wrist straps when I get a little weak, you know, do
Yeah,
some
but we
wrist stuff.
blow out muscles all the same. I mean, it's every sport has its proclivity for stupidity to be there, right?
Yeah,
And there's always an inherent risk that comes with anything when you're pushing it, but I get your
R
point.
risk level up here, CrossFit. Risk level down here for somebody who doesn't go to the gym. Maybe a little bit up. It's a risk level for somebody who does go to the gym and knows what they're doing. Doesn't go to the gym at all.
Oh,
Doesn't go to the gym and knows what they're doing.
no, no, no. I'm going with the guy that doesn't go to the gym at all. His risk level's the highest by far.
Really? Okay. Let me give you context. All right. So my mom, who, she just started going back and she started getting into Pilates. For a while, she didn't really do much. She got a Peloton, the coat rack, and she would she didn't do much. She loved skiing, she loved doing outdoor stuff, she'd go out wake surfing, and had one injury, which was a dog hook her out when she was going down the stairs, and she hurt her knee, and she had a long recovery process to get through that. She came back. Now she does Pilates every now and again, but like more steadily. She has not gotten injured as much as I have in the last few years, but that is just the nature of it, right? The nature
Mhm.
of what you're doing in the stent. My mom is taking less risks in life where she's putting herself in harmful ways in dangerous situations. So, not too much of a gym goer, kind of a low risk for injury.
I,
Sustainable pain, and we're talking about chronic illness or chronic pain, then that's different.
very different. Okay.
Different. Very
I,
different.
I get I get where you're coming from that
Yeah.
now.
Could she suffer from osteoporosis over a long period of time of not doing weightlifting for a gradual period? That is a possibility, right? We're talking
A
about chronic
likely
illness,
outcome.
though. Yeah, very likely outcome, right?
Oh yeah, some sarcopenia in there. We start getting some
Mm-hmm.
COPD. Like, oh, if there's it's a laundry list of fun things. But
So
you are right that a non-gym
yeah,
goer doesn't have an inherent risk of getting hurt from a barbell. If you do, that's fascinating to me.
right.
I have questions. What are you using a barbell
Yeah,
for? That's not weightlifting.
yeah. It'd be more
Um,
like waking up from sleep and having a sore shoulder. Oh man, I slept wrong. Neck's tweaked. versus
That
like, why is
stays
your neck
for three
tweaked?
months.
Oh, I was doing overhead thrusters with snatch and catching on the back of my neck, and I caught it wrong, and now the back of my neck hurts, and I've had the stent. Um,
Yeah,
two different types of neck pain.
I got you. Okay, well, let's try to put a little bit of a bow on this, because we are coming up on that hour mark here.
Got it.
Or did you have any more that you wanted to add into that before we kind of move on to the next part?
I mean, obviously, there's two different sides. I support the idea of CrossFit for the right individual. I don't suggest it for people who are in an athletic state of like, hey, I'm doing this for my football, you know, I'm doing this for football. It's like, hey, you should be doing those in a more controlled environment, less a risk where you're doing these ridiculous workouts that you're going to put yourself in harm's way trying to do this fast. And, you're also doing them back to back with movements that don't quite line up with what you're trying to produce as far as the end result. For the guy who's 24 years old, who's like, man, I don't have a community around me. I really want to just like, I want to push myself. I want to like have a sense of integrity, and I want to be like around people who like that type of atmosphere. Great, that's a good position. Or the 50-year-old, as somebody who wants to push themselves and does that. But you got to interview your coach, and you got to make sure that they know how to stop you from doing movements that you're not ready for.
I'd agree
So
with
it
that.
comes down to the coach.
Yep. If there's one takeaway from today, it comes down to the coach. Like I
Yeah.
would 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not gonna like put a blanket statement that CrossFit's bad. Again, like I have my personal flavor, but I understand that that's my personal thing. That's
Right.
a me thing, and if I'm going to attack it objectively, I'll say I don't believe CrossFit is a good place for people to start, but I do believe that it is a potential outcome or a potential destination that you arrive at. And that may be a destination that you're there for a couple years, couple months, or you're that weird guy that does it for the dawn of time, which
Yeah.
fantastic. I
I
mean, more power to you.
I love that it brought Olympic lifting into the realm of the world because
That's
without
cool.
it, I feel like Olympic lifting would have been a very niche sport that wouldn't have been brought out to the public too
100%.
much. 100%. There was nothing about Olympic lifting, like really in the mix. It was all
No.
bodybuilding. It was Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was all these guys in the 80s getting jacked and getting ripped and Muscle Beach. And then CrossFit led into like the Olympic lifting and doing these things with barbells that people weren't accustomed to, which was amazing. They brought that into the world. So I got to give them like a shout out to that for sure.
No, I agree with you on that. That CrossFit for Olympic lifting, I gotta say there's nothing that's been better for that sport than that because it was just you saw like bodybuilders in the 70s and like early to mid 80s like bodybuilders were doing a lot of Olympic lifting, big compound movements. And then you saw it like in the NCAA and like NFL, like big sports teams starting to kind of adopt it a little bit, but
Yeah.
an average guy wasn't trying to learn how to do a perfect snatch. Like that wasn't
No,
a
before,
thing for a normal gym goer or for even normal gyms to have platforms, mind
yeah,
you. Like that's a
that's true.
2008, 2010 era and beyond gym thing. And now it's shit. I struggle to find a gym that doesn't have a platform now, which
Yeah.
is really cool. Hmm. It's been a fun little back and forth here, man. Again, a big shocker.
I'm
We
glad we
agree on
chose.
most things about it, but we do have certainly our areas of contention, we'll say.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, man. Any last little closing parts before we close her out?
Oh, get some sleep. People, let this time change.
Right.
There's my big thing. I need to do that too. Reset my
Sleep,
clock.
sleep, water, and avoid any type of drug. And congratulations, you've done more than most for your health.
There you go.
But all right, guys, CrossFit sucks. Um, no, CrossFit's all about how you apply it. It's a tool. It's a tool. But this has been a great episode. We'll look forward to seeing you guys here in the next one. Thank you. Cheers.